Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the Round Table and Roll Initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
Hello, adventurers! Welcome to another Curmudgeons and Dragons. My name is Jason Portizo, and today I am joined by Mr. Jim Crocker.
Hey, how we doing?
And nobody else. It's just me and Jim today. A couple of DMs just hanging out, doing DM shit, which is panicking over what Josie's doing. No, Josie's still on her little sabbatical while she's doing some schoolwork. We have a special guest that we just finished recording with. You'll meet her next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that's super exciting. Yeah, new voices with a personal RPG horror story, which is always
comes right out the gates, bringing her own stories and everything. Perfect guest. But don't you worry about her just yet. We'll meet her next time. Today we are doing DMAcademy posts. We haven't done one in a little while because we haven't recorded in quite some time. This is our first recording session in a couple of months. So it's nice to get back to see what kind of bullshit's going on and see if we can offer some advice to people who are asking for it. And I got a couple of posts here that are people offering advice, and we'll see what we think of that.
Yeah.
Ready to jump on in, Jim?
Hit it.
Let's jump on in.
So I'm going to lead off here with a post from Dietree_22, and this is, I have caused a civil war in my campaign.
Oops.
Need help.
I hate when that happens.
And it's not so much a civil war as, I'll get into it here. So they begin, and this is categorized under need advice, other. As opposed to, specific advice about mechanics or rules.
Yeah, it's usually like world building, rules and mechanics, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what they say here...
There's not a separate flair for need advice accidentally caused a war.
Exactly. Yes. Need advice, conflict. So let's get into it here. So as the title implies, I've caused my players to go against each other, but it is not my intention. To put into perspective, there's these two guys in the campaign that have been butting heads since the beginning. One is a druid and the other is a warlock. That's a parenthetical to kind of explain what's going on with it. Pretty much, the warlock wanted to get rid of all higher beings, i.e. gods, deities, demons, and devils, to achieve freedom for humanity. The druid, on the other hand, worshipped one of the higher beings and was desperately trying to convince the warlock otherwise, but the warlock is dead set on destroying, and this is in quotes, everything. Now, the players have separated amongst themselves to either follow the druid or the warlock. Oh, no, that is an actual civil war with actual sides being taken with the party. So now the players have separated amongst themselves to either follow the druid or the warlock. And for some reason, the warlock is pissed at me for doing so, even though it's their actions to do so. My players' actions dictate how the story goes and ends. Need help from some of y'all more experienced DMs on how to resolve this conflict without my players killing one another. I'm still pretty new to DMing, and the requisite apologies for whatever grammatical mistakes they've made for English. English is a second language, that sort of thing. That's all. We take that as read. And just at the end, they add the edit. Thanks for all the advice, everybody. And I'm just gonna for total transparency, this is a thread that I actually weighed in on with an answer of my own, offering some advice. So, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
My first thought here is that the only problem I really see is these players having a problem with it. That is such a good hook. That's a really good hook. And I think it's, it's up to them to resolve it. I don't know. I get, the deicide thing is a pretty, I don't want to say common hook, but it's been done. There's great conflict there with the player worshiping one of the gods that the other wants to kill. My first question is, how do you get a warlock that doesn't care that doesn't care for higher beings? Isn't that where they get the powers from?
I mean, yeah, unless it's, you have one of those ones that gets their powers from whatever, it's an archfey warlock or something like that, and you decide that the fey don't count as as higher beings or something like that,
maybe
or
back to the blade if it's getting it from like a cursed weapon or something.
and I mean, and it could even be a thing where like, I know that this will mean that my powers will be gone, but it will be worth it to have rid the universe of blah, 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 blah kind of thing. And that's a thing that you could do too.
Yeah, I'm on Team
if
Warlock.
you decide you want that to be whatever, the culmination of your arc as a character or something like that.
My advice is to let me join your campaign so I can join Team Warlock. I will bring in my my godless barbarian, and let's see how your paladin does when the god's dead. What was your take on this, Jim?
So my take on this is that, I mean, as with just about every DM Academy question, you set the players down and you have a talk about this is the first thing that you do.
Okay, but what was your fun take on this?
So what I said is basically the problem here is not that you have players on opposing sides who both have equally reasonable, like approaches to this. Essentially, you have players that want to be in two different campaigns. Because if you have a player that wants to be in that campaign where, the kind of the goal of the camp, killing all the gods is not a character goal, it's a campaign arc, right? Is kind of the thing that I said. And I think the analogy I made was like, and the deicide thing can be super cool if it's a vendetta against like a particular deity that doesn't impact what another character is doing.
Yeah.
And I think the analogy I made was if you create a character and you hate your dad because they were a terrible dad and you want to kill your dad or even every member of your own family, that's awesome. And that's super cool. But if you create a character who hates everyone's dad, that's a problem, right? Because some people in that game may not want to have somebody kill their dad. So you have a conversation about that and you decide, is this the game that's going to happen? Is it not the game that's going to happen? I mean, and ideally you can all you need to do is just dial that back enough that that character can still, pursue that goal and have that arc, but just in a way that doesn't impact that other player that's making a very reasonable request saying, I'm not telling you don't do this. I'm just saying, don't do it to me.
Yeah. I do want to on record that Jim is saying that it's okay to kill your dad because it's your dad. It's your dad. It's okay. Don't kill your dad, guys.
In your story, that's, so, I mean, if all
your angsty teenage poetry was right.
Yes. Yeah. Star Wars away, yes. Everybody, please, by all means. Yeah.
Yeah. On the one hand, I love when players create their own story conflict. And this is, if it's just a movie we're watching, this is great storytelling. This is
sure.
And just like you said, like both players do have a really good point. I don't know what led up to this, but like, I don't really care what led up to this. This is 2 points that I can be like, yeah, this is a good story. But maybe you're right. Maybe this is a better story for a work of fiction, like, narrative fiction, rather than a role-playing game where both players are affected by the stakes.
Yeah, as long as everyone kind of agrees that that's what's going on. I mean, if the DM says, okay, we're going to work it in such a way that your druidic powers don't come from deities that that they want to kill, and it's totally cool, and you can see, whatever your Gaia nature force is a separate thing that we're not going to include in that. That's another way to do it, rather than because like the two approaches are, you can say, okay, warlock player that wants to kill all the gods, we need you to narrow that down. So like you're not messing with the druid. Or you can say, druid, we're going to give you a carve out from that so that you don't need to worry about that. And, warlock go nuts with the understanding that this is not going to affect the druid's character arc and their nature powers and stuff like that.
So my thought here is, I'm trying to think of how I would handle something like this. And obviously this is with no context of the campaign leading up to this point. So all I have to go on is what we have to go on, yada, 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 disclaimer. But my first thought is that, okay, so mechanically, the druids should be getting their power from their deity, just like most others. you can just say, okay, the power was within you all along. You can pull that move. But I think the player's attachment to their god is seems now more story driven.
Sure.
And we see this in tons of campaigns, and I'm going to reference NADPOD again. Like if you took Melora away from Moonshine, she'd be devastated. So how do we keep the players happy here? So my first thought was to have the Druid's god help defend the other gods, or even jump on the Warlock's side. Maybe that god sees the problem with the other gods and fights alongside the Druid.
Sure.
And it costs the divine powers or whatever, and like is still there as like maybe on like a philosopher level and less on a deity level, but we have a way of destroying gods while not destroying the god.
Yeah, and it's also worth keeping in mind that, like, quote unquote killing gods, like, boom, you're right into homebrew territory there. Like, kind of in 5th edition as written, you can go after like demon princes and stuff like this, but there isn't really a way to go kill, go kill Pelor or something like that. It's like not a thing that is really written in there. So if you decide your campaign's going to go that way, you have full authority over what counts as a god, what doesn't, who can be killed, who can't. They don't stat them up in 5th edition for a reason.
Was Vecna not a god, or is he more demigod?
Vecna's in that kind of like bad guy. So like there are some of those like demon princes and powerful undead and stuff that kind of tread into that territory. But the point is that like Vecna's a monster that walks around saying it's a god, right? It's not something that you derive powers from or anything like that you need to have those worries about.
Okay.
If I'm a warlock that, worships Vecna and my character and the party kills Vecna, where do my powers come from?
I know,
and the answer is they come from the player's handbook.
I know Vecna is a viable choice for a deity. I wasn't sure of a lot of his lore.
Yeah, I know that you can decide what all it means.
Like shortly after Wizards acquired D&D Beyond, they released Vecna stats.
Yeah. I mean, and there's Vecna stats out there and stuff like that. But this is also the kind of thing where I also wonder, like, when you create first level characters, if you say, I want to kill all the gods, like, is that a thing where you expect to make any progress on that goal before you hit like 17th level? Or is the point of it going to be like, I'm going after cults and temples and all this kind of stuff and everything in my quest to eventually take down the gods?
Yeah.
Because that might be an interesting campaign. Yeah. And it also gives you plenty of runway for, you can start that at first level and go, okay, I'm going to start my character with the goal of killing all the gods. And Druid says, well, I don't want you to kill my god. And the two of you can go, okay, cool. Then let's play over the next 5 levels to find out how you change my mind. And you could totally say that that's going to be, where you end up at 6th level or 8th level or 10th level or something like that, without having to commit in advance. Well, 3 adventures from now, you tell me this, and then you tell me that, and the other thing. As long as you know that's where you're going, then you can, I'm going to say this a lot. I love to say this: play to find out how that works.
How do you even feel about having that be a goal for a level 1 character? Do they even like have the wherewithal to be thinking on that grand of a scale?
I don't know. I mean, like that seems to me like it's, if you do have a character that's thinking about that in level 1 terms, that has a cult-like valence to it to me, where it's like, for 10 generations, your family's, like 10 generations ago, your ancestor swore vengeance against the gods, and that's what your family's been trying to do for generation after generation after generation. And this time for sure, you're going to be the one that does it. And one of the things that you can do, the other thing that you can do that I don't think players do nearly often enough, is to say, this is what my professed goal is, but I understand that I am not going to reach this, and at some point I'm gonna change to a different goal because I know I can't do this. Sure. But we're gonna play for a few levels to see what that's like to find, to encounter that
That
frustration.
sounds
But
suspiciously.
that requires a lot of discussion.
That sounds suspiciously like character growth, Jim. Watch.
Yeah.
Watch that. Next post, obviously from the DMAcademy. This is by user JD Mead 32. It says, my party nearly doubled at the very last minute. And this almost reads like a horror story, but this is a nice Venn diagram between horror story and DMAcademy. So like, yeah, this is
it can get a little fuzzy.
We can easily get this
in between them. Yeah.
But I know how would you handle this? So, started the campaign up last night. Have been planning on 4 players, all of whom I've played with for years. There was a chance that a 5th player who just learned to play last campaign might join as well, but he was not responding to any of my texts. He's in first year of college, so I was cutting him a little slack. So now off the bat, we're dealing with like 18-year-olds, which is a fickle bunch.
Yes. Yeah.
So game time shows up. My regular 4 arrive on time, and I'm informed that college boy is on his way. Okay, maybe just the ones in college. Okay, great. I knew it was possible. The bombshell is dropped when I'm told he's bringing his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend, but they're just going to watch. Sure. They arrive and we discover, hey, they want to play. Oh, okay. Well, they've never played before. So the session that was going to be introducing the hook is now spent explaining what a druid is and why there's magic in the world. Thankfully, my other players are super helpful and hold their hands through creation while I'm trying to figure out how to adjust the first encounter so it goes from 1 orc versus 4 first level players to something else versus 7 first level players. Mm-hmm. We eventually got to start rolling dice and traveled to our first battle. This took us to the end of the night. The roommate stands up and says, the only way I'm missing the next game is if I'm dead or dying. I think that's a compliment. I'm trying now to get my feet back under me and figure out how to deal with a party of 7. I've run as many as 8, but that was when I had prepared for 8. Sorry, just needed to vent. Just needed to vent, blah, 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 blah. TLDR. So yeah, definitely a horror story when your party of 4 turns into a party of 7, 3 of which are brand new players.
I mean, it didn't have to turn into a party of 7. Like that's a voluntary horror story because you just say no. Yeah. You say, I'm sorry, I didn't prep for 7 people. You can join us like we planned on it. But I can't accommodate your 2 friends that you brought without telling me.
The real horror story
that you invited to my. So for me, the horror story there is the social horror story of you invited 2 people I don't know to my house. Mm-hmm. No, you did not. Mm-hmm. Like set the D&D stuff aside. Like I have 5 chairs at the table, so you better not invite 2 extra people. We said this before the show. Like
when I run games in my house, I literally have 6 chairs in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have 5 seats open, I have 5 actual, literal, physical seats open. Yeah. And if you want to bring 2 friends over, they can stand in the kitchen, eat my snacks while they watch us play for 7 hours. And I hope they drove themselves.
Yeah. And like, I mean, and part of it is you can be courteous and you can be friendly, but you can also be firm in your conviction that this is a game for 5 people. And, you seem like very pleasant people, nothing personal.
You don't know that.
But I prepped for 5 and we're going to play with 5. And if you want to do a tutorial session, we can talk about that at some other time. Yeah.
So, maybe they're experienced enough DM to where they clearly pulled it off. The new players were all super excited about the game. They seem to have a great time. The only way I'm missing the next game is if I'm dead. That's a great review.
It is, but so it is, and that's excellent, and that's what you should do for new players. But the caveat there is that when it is your first session like that, and people are like, if you have a good group that is giving you a good tutorial, you have a lot of focus and spotlight on you that is not necessarily going to be your experience of the game going forward with subsequent games. Like, I don't know, like you're going to get, like, I hate to call it hand holding because that kind of makes it sound like, pejorative, but that's not what I mean when I say that amount of hand-holding, that amount of attention, that amount of spotlight, at some point you're going to be expected to kind of, pick it up and run with the game so that everybody else can get to actually playing rather than being teachers.
I don't see hand-holding as being pejorative. I think it's
okay.
If it's coming from a place of being actually helpful, then I think hand-holding is it's just nice.
Okay.
You gotta wife that you love very much, don't you? Hand-holding is great, man.
Yes, hand-holding is lovely. So this was very cool, but the question is, like, and there's also, I think, it is also okay to say, well, you guys are here this evening, we're going to teach you, but I can't accommodate 7 in the game going forward. Yeah. Like, we're going to do this special thing tonight, and if you dig the game, then find another table, we'll set up a second group, whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
It's also okay to say, okay, we're going to kind of firewall this one night off from the rest of the campaign and do our thing. But it is hard to say no to people when they're standing right in front of you. But like I said, it's your place, it's your game. You can be polite, you can be courteous, but you can also say no, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think realistically, if this happened to me, and I know exactly which of my players would do this to me. Right?
We all know which player would do this to us.
DMs who are listening to this show right now, just close your eyes and think of which of your asshole players would pull this off. Okay, I know,
and not even asshole. It's not even necessarily asshole. So like, okay,
I don't mean asshole in a pejorative term.
Yes. Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
It's descriptive.
Okay. Lowercase a. There we go. All right.
Capital H though.
As an adjective. All right. Okay. Okay. Adjective, not noun.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. So, which one of your players would pull this off for you? But so had this happen to me, and Josh, I mean, one of my players, Bernie says 2 asshole friends, and that's noun. No. So I think the play then would become, at least in my first reaction would be, once we determine whether or not they are actually here to play, whether or not they're going to take this seriously, and whether or not that's what they plan on doing tonight, because that is what we're doing tonight. You're welcome to join us if that is your intention. Because I've had people just kind of show up and be like, "Oh, you guys are playing games," and they think it's going to be a Monopoly when really we got a 6-hour thing in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I expect you to be there with me for the whole time. So once we get that part out of the way, if I had a campaign for 5 planned, especially for long term, I may just be like, "Hey guys, we are going to do session 1 next time, and we got some new players. Everyone's excited to play. Let's knock out a one shot."
Make it into a tutorial. Yeah.
Yep. And if you don't have any prepared, you can go find several online that are already prepared for you. You guys order pizza because you're definitely buying now. And by the time it shows up, I will be able to pivot and prepare for this one shot that I just downloaded. I think that may be, and if you're an experienced DM, you probably have one shots, maybe even your own, that you kind of have somewhat ready to go. And with minimal planning, maybe you can get it up and running. Maybe that would be the play if this were me.
And boy, new DMs that are listening to this, if you have not experienced this, 5 is the sweet spot for D&D. It's perfect, at least for 5th edition. 5 players. 5. I think 5 is the sweet spot. 5 is where it really hums. 4 is pretty good.
I lean a little more.
5 is where it really. 5 is where it really sings. 6 is where it starts to get dicey, and it drops off a cliff with 7.
Yes.
No kidding. The difference between 5 and 6 is noticeable. The difference between 5 and 7 is almost like you're playing different games.
Palpable is what it is.
Yeah.
The story game that I'm running now, our first one, we have 3 players, which I like 3. If three can get along and balance each other out, 3 can be...
3 is doable. You might need to do a little tweaking in terms of like if you don't have a healer or something like that. Yep. But it's as long as you have at least 3 to do
find some
relationship triangles and stuff.
Yeah,
you're in good shape.
And also narratively, it could be great because it really does kind of make them all interact. Where 4 can be 2 and 2, or 5 can be 2 and 3. 3 really needs to interact with each other. So three's fine. We had a cap of 5 with a soft cap of 6 for these games for pre-signups.
Yeah.
And then the one that I'm running next week at the time of this recording, it was going to start at noon. 6 players signed up like immediately, and we have like a 6 p.m. game now, also with everyone who all the overspill people. So like I went from not having enough players to having way too many. But I'll run 6 new players if I have to.
And 6 is doable because at least 30% of the time that's a table of 5. If you've especially if you've got like 6 adults with lives, that is a thing that you'll run into.
These are pre-registrations though; they already paid.
Okay. So then that's maybe 10 to 20%. It's going to be a thing of 5 because somebody can't make it for whatever reason. Yeah. Sure. But but that's the other reason why 6 is doable, because often enough that will become 5 that then you hit that sweet spot.
Yeah. But the real advice here
you can get around the table with 6.
The real advice here is don't bring unexpected guests to someone else's house. That's just weird.
Yeah, that's like Emily Post shit there. That's
just weird.
Cool. So this one is really interesting. I saw it, and it is not even necessarily like an asking for advice thing, but it does say need advice, encounters, and adventures. But it's got an interesting
not asking for advice has never stopped us before, Jim.
That's true, I guess. And it does say need advice. But so this is posted by ECENI, and the question that they're asking is the reason Chariots don't see much use in D&D 5e combat due to it being dull. I mean, the chariot pulled by horses would have 60-foot movement. Having a driver and an archer as a 2-man team to attack the players is something that gets stale quickly? ? So they're kind of framing that like why wouldn't I do this as a DM? It's just because it would get stale. Having a mobile position for an enemy creature to launch arrows needs to be done the right way so it isn't drawn out. DMs of Reddit, how would you keep a combat encounter involving chariots or mounted horse archers fresh and exciting for players? I want to have early Civ ideas in a campaign, predominantly Celt chariots, Hun-like mounted archers, or cavalry. I just thought this was interesting because it's a, kind of a, like it is a thing we don't see a ton.
Yeah, no, it raises a perfectly fine question. Like
in games,
are there stats for stuff like that? Is there mechanics for chariot?
I'm sure that there must be, that if we, were to pour through some, module somewhere, that we would find them and stuff like this. But I mean, I think to my mind, the short answer is because if you don't design them properly, like the logical thing to do is kill the mounts, and then it becomes just a static combat encounter. And there's also kind of other ways to do things like this, because you've got access to kind of magical D&D creatures that are kind of equally interesting but more dynamic. So like a manticore is basically a flying version of this, right?
Sure. That does everything you wanted to do without needing extra mechanics.
Yeah, like a squad of centaurs hauling ass around the battlefield with bows is kind of serving the same duty as something like this is doing. And I think that's why we don't see a ton of it. And but I think if you did want to do this, it's totally doable and would be totally cool and very interesting.
I did do it.
But the thing, yeah, go ahead.
I did do a very quick search. And there is a vehicle chariot in the basic rules. And all it's really doing is giving you proficiency with a certain type of terrain. Not really adding anything to combat, but it's just helping with it's more like your traveling cart.
But yeah, you get extra movement and stuff like that. But
however, in Mystic Odysseys of Theros, there is a wondrous item called a flying chariot. That gives the riders and the creatures pulling the chariot +1 to AC, which makes sense that they're harder to hit. If it's pulled by one or more flying creatures, it too can fly.
Yeah, there you go.
That's in
Pegasus into it or whatever.
That's in the Theros book. So it is there.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing that you do to make it, there's a couple things that I would do if I were going to drop this into a game to make it interesting. And the first is that I would just give the whole thing a big bag of hit points. I would not worry about, did you hit the mount? Did you hit the chariot? Did you hit the rider? It's a chariot. It's got 60 hit points. It's got this movement, and treat the team as a single monster. Okay. And then, you're like, of course, you're trying to shoot the horse to stop the chariot. You're trying to get that archer so that you knock him out and the chariot goes running off without a person shooting at you. But you just treat those hit points. This is one of those times where we talk about abstracting hit points, right? That it's not necessarily the specific wound that you do when you knock hit points off, that you're just kind of reducing that chariot's ability to fight you. And then when it gets to 0 hit points, you say, okay, what happened? Did you knock the archer out? Did you, like disable a wheel? Did you, is the mount disabled? Did you just finally make that perfect shot that hit the straps that's holding the mount on and it goes running off and it crashes, whatever.
Which one did you break?
The
horse, the cart, or the guy?
Exactly.
One of them's broken. Which one did you break?
Yeah. And it can't fight anymore, so it's defeated.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do, because otherwise you're going to get players being like, well, I just want to shoot the mount, right? And not worry about the guy and stuff. You go, okay, cool. Roll to hit.
Sure.
AC is the same regardless of who you shoot at, and that's what we're going to treat it.
I think with that gets dangerously close to another DMAcademy post that I chose not to include in this one. Was about players calling in their shots. Trying to shoot the Cyclops in the eye and that kind of thing. And those mechanics just don't exist in the game. At least not in D&D. They exist in other games and other systems. But that's not a thing that we deal with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, D&D assumes you are always trying to shoot the Cyclops in the eye.
Sure.
And that when you get it to 0 hit points, that's when you managed it. Kind of that's how I've always treated that.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, he's got other fleshy bits too. He's got other weaknesses, all right?
Exactly,
You shoot a guy in the heart, he's going to go down. But enough shots there, it's just you don't have to call your shots. And having one amalgamated creature that is horse, buggy, and rider forces you to call your shots, and now you have opened up the floodgates of calling your shots for other combats as well, and that's bad.
Yeah,
it just
so you just treat it as one monster.
Yeah, it opens you up to too many problems later. But yeah, the one block of hit points that could be all 3 of those things combined. Whatever a horse is, whatever a guy is, and whatever Chariot has hit points. I closed the tab now. I'm not going to look them up, but go get your Theros book, and go check it out there. But that's a cool way to handle it like that.
And there's there's kind of some crunchier mounted combat rules and stuff that you can bring into this from, I think from the DMG and stuff like that. But just treating it as if it's a monster that can spit stuff at you, that's totally fine. And then the fun is in flavoring it that way. Have your hoplites or whatever in the back with their long bows that they've got mounted, shooting at you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it as
the chariot itself breaks away, and it turns out it was just the centaur the whole time.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be kind of funny, like a little, like it's actually a little thing that it was wearing attached to its side or something like that.
Little goblin hanging off his back with a wheel,
kind of falls over. Exactly,
just there to make it think it's a wheel.
And if you want to do a thing where the enemies are in chariots and the players are in chariots, and you're having some kind of a race or something like that, you don't even need to jerk around with, this chariot moves 60, this chariot moves 60. You just play with the relative distances and stuff like that. So, if you know that you're going around a track or something like that, then it doesn't even matter that you're traveling at 60. You just know that that's happening. Yeah. And then the only thing that matters is the relative distance between them and, whatever your lead over the other one and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I don't like saying that a problem is solved with homebrew rules, but this can be made a lot of fun with turning into a mini game if you're doing the death race type of thing. And again, not to 100% lean on that pod, but they've had things where they're something's collapsing or there's a storm coming in or something like that where they have to run from it. And he's like, hey, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to assume you're doing a dash action no matter what. That part's a given. What we're going to deal with is, these obstacles and these things trying to attack you and how you're dealing with all of those things. That's the actual game here for the next 15 minutes. Okay. Ready, set, go. And that could be a cool thing. I'm very, very pro mini games. I love mini games. And this is a great opportunity for one. But if you think that my real advice here is that if you think there's not enough chariots in D&D, run chariots in D&D.
Yeah, drop Chariots into your game, man. No one's stopping you, and it's especially if the players are interested in it, and it further reinforces the themes that you've got going on and stuff like that. Go for it for sure.
Have them run into like 1 or 2 first, test the waters, and then now they found the fleet of them.
Exactly.
And, the classic, ramp up your monsters that you saw earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually sounds like that's a great idea, and I'm taking my own advice, and I'm just going to kind of throw some chariots in my game. These are my chariots now.
Go. Excellent. Yeah.
My little chariots.
Fantastic.
That's going to wrap it up for this DM Academy episode. Links to the original posts are going to be in the show notes. You can see Jim leave some comments on some of those. I have not left comments on any of these because I save it for you, the listener. Those are your comments, and you get to keep them all to yourself. But that's all I got for this week. Check us out, curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Once again, all these episodes do now include video. So if you're just listening to us, check out curmudgeonsanddragons.com/YouTube. That'll get you right on over to our YouTube channel. You can see our our pretty little faces. And
you can check out what I've got on my role-playing bookshelf behind me.
Yeah, or mine too, which is very out of focus right now. But you can see my little stuffies. I got my little stuffed Mimic back there, my stuffed Xanathar. There's a stuffed D20 up there too that's out of frame. But yeah, check out our rooms. You get to feel like you're hanging out with us. It's like having friends. For me, knowing that people are watching while I'm talking about D&D. But DM Academies are back. Love it. That's really I'm just kind of floundering for an end of an episode at this point, so I'm just going to say thank you, Jim. And
you're very welcome.
Thank you for listening, and thank you, adventurers.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.